how I dealt with failure was the biggest thing, because it was like, failure doesn't mean it's the end. It just means I'm one step closer to my yes, and I'm one step closer to my success.
Welcome to episode number 34 of the 100 Successful Women, a Conversation to Inspire series. If you are new to the channel, my name is Vivienne. I started this 100 Successful Women conversation around end of last year. So the reason why I started this podcast or this conversation is to inspire more women to get out of their comfort zone, to see the possibilities in themselves, and to live a life that is true to themselves. So today, in episode number 34, I am so grateful to have one of my friends, Nyibol Kuek, joining us in our conversation. Nyibol has been so busy, that's why I only managed to get her on this episode after so long. So I have known Nyibol from one of our mastermind, which started like 2 years ago. So I have known Nyibol for around 2 years. I can see that she is someone very hardworking, very dedicated to her work, and she have a heart that is bigger. She's big to help people. She's on a mission to help people that is in need as well. She's also very I would say I admire her for having to own her home at a very young age, because a lot of time, especially during this economy, we know that how hard it is to save to earn a house, and she did that at a very young age. She definitely have some great tips to share with you, especially for those younger generation out there. So without further ado, let's have a listen to what Nyibol is going to share with us in our conversation coming up next. Good evening, Nyibol. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm good, thank you so much. Thanks again, Nyibol, for taking your time out for this 100 Successful Women conversation. I know that you're super busy.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here with me today, Nyibol. So for those of you listening, I know Nyibol from one of the mastermind that we've been spending time together for the past 2 years. I think we started joining the mastermind. So I've been knowing Nyibol for nearly 2 years, I would say. Is that right, Nyibol?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, and Nyibol, she is the founder of NK Media, and she got a few things that she's doing as well. So without going that further yet, so the first question that I always ask the guests of this 100 Successful Women is that, who is really Nyibol Kuek?
Such a good question. Very interesting. And like, it made me think so much when I saw that question, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, who am I? But I would say I am South Sudanese and I'm Australian. So I'd like to include both those, because I think my upbringing has really impacted like who I am as a person, and having to see like both sides of the culture, and growing up and trying to navigate being Sudanese and then also navigating life in Australia as well. I would also say I'm someone who's very adventurous, who's very curious, very ambitious, and very kind-hearted as well, and compassionate.
Yeah, definitely can see that Nyibol is someone who is very compassionate. She do a lot of charity works, as I can remember as well. She is someone that is very, very hardworking to me. So thank you so much for sharing with us there, Nyibol. And when you studying NK Media, I know that you started the business like maybe 2 years or is that 1 year ago? I can't remember how long ago did you started NK Media.
I started it in March 2019.
Wow.
So a very long time ago.
Wow. It seems like 2019 is not that, is that long? I think it's pre-COVID?
Yeah, pre-COVID.
Wow. So can you share a bit about your journey of starting NK Media?
Yeah, so when I finished uni around October 2018, And usually after uni, I did a Bachelor of Business with a major in marketing.
Mm-mm.
Usually the thing after uni is you go and you start applying for jobs and you get into your first corporate role and just start your career that way. And so I started that tradition with working in advertising. I got my first advertising job in January 2019. It was for a advertising agency that did like banner advertising. So on websites, you can see like a banner ad for like H&M or a big
Mm-mm.
company. And I was very unhappy at that place. Like I felt like it wasn't what I wanted to do. I was trying to adjust to being out of uni and like having to just do study basically my whole life and then trying to find my feet in the corporate world. And I actually ended up getting fired. So I got fired from the job. They sensed that my head was not in the right place and I wasn't like focused at work and I just really struggled. And I remember when I got fired, I called my brother and I was like really excited. It was really weird. It was the weirdest thing ever. I was like, oh my gosh, like I just got fired. Like, wow, like I'm free in a way, which isn't the best, you know. It helped me in that aspect because what I did when I decided to like go into the workplace is I didn't actually think about like what I really, really wanted and go after my actual dreams. It was just like, this is the thing to do. I finished uni, I'm going to go into the corporate world and that's what you do. But I always remember when I was like younger and like in high school, I was so ambitious and I'd write like, I want to achieve this by when I'm like 20 something and I want my own company and I want this amount of dollars and I want this type of house and that kind of stuff. And I would always have like my journals with me and things like that. But I kind of tucked it away for a bit because I thought this is the route that you're supposed to go and you're supposed to go to in the corporate world. And so quitting made me realize that you can fail at something that you're supposed to do or you don't want to do. So I'm like, if I can fail at something that I don't want to do, why can't I just try what I really want to do and put my whole heart into it? Because the worst already had happened. I failed and like I was okay. Like I was still good. I was surviving and I was happy and like my life didn't end. And so I was like, let me actually just do what I want to do, live life on my own terms and start my own company because I'd always wanted to do that when I was younger. So that's how my business actually came about. It was through failure and realizing that like failure is not the end, like you're going to survive. And so I was like, let me just be free. I'm going to be my full self and just start my own business. And I just loved it. Like I failed so much when I first started my business because with the marketing agency, there's a lot of like rejection when it comes to finding new clients. And I was also learning how to do social media again. I had studied it in uni and I grew up with social media, but it was different when you're like analyzing like a person's business, like a business owner's their own business. So yeah, that's what inspired me to enter into the world of social media marketing.
Wow, that's amazing. And then with you starting at such a young age and then just literally finish uni and then you got into the job, and because of you getting fired, that's how it all gets started from there.
Yeah.
So the fire from the job is actually something, it's a blessing for you then.
Yeah, it was such a blessing.
Wow, that's wonderful. So is that the social media part, is that because that's what you learn in the uni as well? Or that's something that you did say that you learn after?
Yeah, so I grew up with social media, so something that I understood, and it was something that I found fascinating as well because it was something that has really revolutionized our whole world, you know, and it's always changing. And it was something that I loved, that aspect that it's always evolving, it's always changing. There's so much you can learn and you can be creative with social media as well because it's like very new. So there's some rules, but there's not many rules. So you can create different things. And so I loved that about social media. I loved the agency strategy because it wasn't completely like, there was some steps that I could follow because other agencies had been around and I had been in the agency, the space for a short amount of time as well. So I could see some structures and some things on how to build, but there were also things that I had to learn for myself. So I had a good balance.
I see. So that's lead to probably another question, because you did mention that social media is something that keep on evolving. And so how do you stay up to date with the latest trend and changes? As you can see, there are AI coming up. There are lots of different applications that's coming up as well. So how do you stay up to date with that?
I love YouTube. Like, I'm always on YouTube. There's so many group leaders and thinkers in the YouTube space. So I love to use YouTube to see what the trends are. There's different types of email marketing businesses, social media businesses that do email marketing, and they'll have like weekly trends, monthly trends, that kind of stuff. And then always having the mindset that we're here to create the best results for our clients. And when you're working in social media marketing, you have to care about the client's business as if it was your own. And so having that approach and that mindset makes you want to keep up to date, because it's someone else's business and you are helping them grow. And with growth, you always need to be evolving.
I love that. You're actually saying that it's all about your customers, and then depends on what they want, and you based on that and to go and do the research. And I love that you are always constantly learning and growing because of that. So is there anyone in particular? Because I know that you do, like you say, you follow people on YouTube as well. Can you please maybe share with us a few of the gurus that is inspiring to you, or some of them that you can recommend for us as well, Nyibol?
I really love Ben Heath. I think he's like amazing when it comes to Facebook ads. I feel like his videos are very beginner friendly, and I just love the way he structures his videos as well. And I also think Erin on Demand is amazing when it comes to content creation and all things content creation, just advertising, everything like that. And even like entrepreneurship, I think Erin on Demand is amazing.
Yeah, so those two is the one that you highly recommend.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so good. Thank you so much for that, Nyibol. And because when you starting the business, obviously around 2019, as a startup, starting a business at the early stages, what are some of the challenges that you face along the way, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Definitely getting my first client was so hard. So when I first started my business, I decided to do cold calling as my approach. So I'd go on Google, look up local businesses within my area, and then I'd call them up, ask to speak with the manager, pitch the manager over the phone, or the business owner, and then ask them if I can come in for a meeting, and then physically come into the meeting and prepare my pitch, and then just talk to them that way. And that was really hard because there was a lot of rejection, and it was very time consuming as well, because you're like booking in a meeting and then you're going into the business. And some businesses, I remember like one of the hairdressers, like she was doing hair and then she was trying to talk to me, and it was just so awkward, like trying to pitch and trying to talk about social media, and she's got like a client, and then she'll have to like, I'll have to wait. So there's those type of things that were like very hard, and just like having to be constantly rejected. I think that is also very hard as well. Yeah, it can definitely take a toll on you. Yeah.
So what did you do to overcome these challenges?
Just have to keep on going. Like, I was very determined to get my first client, and I was very determined to make my business successful. So I just had to keep on going no matter what. And I just have that mindset that like, if you have a failure, you're one step closer to your yes. And like, think of it as a numbers game as well, and just think about like, how can you keep on providing value for your clients, and even how you build rapport and how you structure your meetings. It's like, what can the client get out of this, and how can you help their business grow? and have that mindset. But just like how I dealt with failure was the biggest thing, because it was like, failure doesn't mean it's the end. It just means I'm one step closer to my yes, and I'm one step closer to my success.
I love that line, and I love that like quotes from Nyibol. Failures doesn't mean that. Can you say that again? What's the quote again?
So failure doesn't mean like it's the end or it's a no. It just means you're one step closer to your yes, or one step closer to your success.
Wow, that's really good. I love that. That's good quotes that is everyone should take it, and that's failures. And you did say that it's a number games, as long as you get yourself out there as much as you can, and there will be eventually a yes of all this rejection.
Yeah.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing with us there, Nyibol. And how you did mention that going out to meet with customers, is that something that you have always been doing, Nyibol? Aside from business, is that something that is you feeling because a lot of time people tend to hold back to get out there to meet with clients. It's something that is not everyone comfortable doing. So is it something that you has always been going to do that, or?
No, I think when I started my business, that was the approach that I decided to use, because other people did cold calling, and like calling people up and visiting people in person is the best way to get results. So I knew that like for me to be successful and for me to get my first client, I had to step out of my comfort zone, and I had to do something different no matter how uncomfortable I was. So I had to just force myself to do it, because that's the only way I would see results. Yeah.
Yes, definitely getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. So important.
Aside from like getting out there to speak with your clients, another question that I have on here is like stepping out of one's comfort zone. So it's something that can be daunting for a lot of people. So aside from getting yourself out there to do cold calling, to go meeting with your clients, can you recall any other particular moments or instances where you push yourself beyond your comfort zone?
Beyond my comfort zone, I think moving interstate by myself was very different, and it pushed me out of my comfort zone. So last year I moved to Brisbane by myself. I lived by myself for the first time, and I lived away from my family. I lived away from like even my cousins that were in the state as well, and I had to just navigate life. I had to find new church, find new friends, find a new way of like doing things. And I think that really pushed me out of my comfort zone, because I was fully independent and I just had to figure life out. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. And what did you learn from this experience that you say moving interstate all by yourself?
Yeah. I actually learned that I really like myself. Like I really like my own company. I like who I'm becoming. I like who I am, and I'm very confident in who I am. I think it took me quite a long time to get to that, but like just acknowledging it, because it was just me and my thoughts. I was like, actually, I like you. Like you're a solid human being. So that was beautiful. And I just learned the importance of community. Like there was so many things that I couldn't do alone, even when it came to like furniture and assembling furniture and like moving things and cars and stuff like that. It's like I really relied on community. So it's so important to build a community. No matter where you are, you can't do life alone. We do life in community. And to just like give back to people, even if you're not going to get anything out of it, like make sure you're giving to people, and make sure that you are someone that is approachable, because I think life is so much easier in community when you have support. Yeah.
Definitely the community. And because there is a saying that I'm not sure how to say it in English, but in Mandarin it says that the people that live closer to us, it's so much better if there's something that you need help, you can rely on family that is in Sydney, right? Yeah, definitely the community around you is someone that you can probably get help from when you in local area. So and I really want to say kudos to you for moving all the way by yourself and doing all this thing, and then seeing you so much different from you like a year ago. It's like so much happening, right?
Yeah, it was so much. It's such a life-changing experience. I'm just really grateful for just doing it.
Wow, you're such an amazing young people. It sounds like you've been through a lot with your age, right? I know that you are very young, and then you have been through a lot the things that you have been doing. Well done, Nyibol.
Thank you.
And you're back to Sydney right now, is that right?
I'm back in Sydney.
And I know that you're also doing some what the course that you're doing, is that to do with community or?
So I'm actually doing a diploma of ministry. Yeah, so very, very different from what I studied. A whole different course, and it's full time as well. So it's like very full on already. Yeah.
Wow. So what inspired to do the course in ministry?
Well, like my spirituality is very, very important to me and something that I actively practice. I felt like God called me to do this course. But I just felt really inspired also by the church that I was at, and like the servant heart that the people had, the community they had. And I really wanted to learn more about like theology and the Bible and how I can use that to create a positive impact in my community and in my future, like the churches that I'll be a part of. But yeah, it was mostly because God called me to it. I think I wanted more like purpose in my life as well. And yeah.
I love that. And I can see that you are definitely, as you mentioned earlier, someone who's really compassionate, and then I feel that you are actually doing things that are bigger than yourself, Nyibol.
Thank you.
And also, I know that aside from you starting your own marketing agency at a very young age, and you are also a very young homeowner as well. That is such an amazing. And then with the economy nowadays, people tend to say that it's hard for them to get a home. But at your age, at a very young age, to become someone who owns a home is very inspiring. And can you please tell us a little bit about your experience on that, Nyibol, on how you saving up and purchasing your first house at such a young age?
Yeah, so I had the goal in 2020. I originally thought I wanted to just save up and go to Europe and do like a couple of years overseas. So I was like, let me just save money to go to Europe and just like live my best life and study abroad, because that's something that I'm passionate about. But COVID happened. I was like, maybe it's time to get a house or like save for investment property, because that was one of the things when I made that list when I was really young. That was one of the things on the list, that I wanted to have my own house. And so I started to be more practical about it. One of the first things I did was I started listening to financial podcasts, especially those around like Gen Z and millennials. And I started to just like absorb myself around like finances, that kind of stuff. I started to pay attention to my budgets. I was very fortunate enough that with COVID, I ended up making a lot of like decent income as well. And I was working, I had 4 jobs at one time. Yes, I had 4 jobs, and then obviously ended up with 3, and then I think 2. So I was always busy. And so I just was, because COVID as well, we weren't really going out. I was just saving my money, just stacking it away. I had like my numbers, how much I needed to save and how many years I wanted to save, that kind of stuff. And I was still doing like my financial education on the side as well. So I just kept on doing that. I never really thought of it as like impossible. I was always like, it's just a goal, it's tangible. I have like my numbers, I'm doing the right things, and I surrounded myself with people that thought the same. I never really like surrounded myself with people that thought, oh, we're never going to get a house, it's too expensive, not in this economy. I try to stay as positive and look for people that were already achieving the goals that I wanted to, and then just kept on chipping away. Even after the restrictions lifted, I was not really going out. I didn't really see my friends for like a year or two. I just was working, and I just kept on chipping away. I was living with my parents at the time as well, but I was still helping them with some like of the mortgage and things like that. So it wasn't completely like rent free. I would have loved if it was rent free, but it wasn't. So there was that, but I still made sure that I was like revising my goals every month, how much I wanted to save every month, every week, that kind of stuff, and just kept at it. And then educating myself, speaking with mortgage brokers, speaking with buyer's agents, and just like making sure that my goal was always at the center of my mind. So that's how I did it.
Wow, that's amazing. You mentioned about the list that you were making since a very young age. How old were you to have that list?
I think I was like 10, either between 10 and 12. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. 10 and 12, that's literally my kid's age. So yeah. How come, how did you, is that someone that inspired you to do that? Because that must be someone that influenced you, or you learned from somewhere doing that.
I think growing up like with parents, like I came to Australia when I was 5. And then like my parents always instilled like education and like excellence and things like that. And my parents were really strict as well when we were younger. Like we weren't really allowed to go out to my friend's house or sleepovers and things like that. So I had like a lot of time to be able to dream and read and think. So I think it just came from my imagination as well as like wanting a better life and wanting to achieve a lot in my life. Yeah.
Wow. And did you, when you say at that age, you dream to own your own house and then to have that dream. So you have that dream, but then did you read some books or did you watch some YouTube videos to teach you to be on that path?
When I was around that age, I loved to read, but I loved to read like fantasy, like fantasy type of books. That was what I was obsessed with, or like really like girly, like I don't know, I think it's called Go Girls. I was obsessed with like Go Girls, and they're like, yeah. So it's very like interesting, like funny, that kind of stuff. But when I was in high school was when I started to read like books regarding like how to win friends and influence people and really personal development when I was in high school. But when it was primary school, it's just purely like I wrote stuff down and I was just dreaming. It was just I'm a dreamer generally, so it's just a matter of just writing things down and getting on paper because I loved journaling as well.
Yeah, I love that. And journaling is definitely one of the best thing to do because you get to put things down and then literally it's feel like everything in your mind can become something tangible.
Yeah,
and I love that. So who is your biggest inspiration, Nyibol?
I'd say my mom. My mom. She's like such a great person. I think she has gone through a lot of trials and she has come out of the other side, and she's like the hardest working person I know. She's always pushing herself. And she's very caring as well. Like she really cares about other people. So yeah, it would be my mom.
Yeah, that's I can see that from what you're sharing. You are someone that probably following her step to follow her to become someone who is like caring and to give back to the community as well.
Thank you. I hope so.
Yeah, you definitely is on that path. Thank you so much for that. And my next question is that I saw that you were doing some modeling as well. Is that something that you did before, or do you still do modeling now?
Yeah, it's something that I did before, when I was younger. It's something that I'm thinking of getting back into. I'd love to start it up again. But I loved it when I was younger, like in my teens, late teens, early 20s. It made me so happy, and that's what I thought I was gonna go career-wise as well. Like that was, I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to do modeling. Like I just all these things that I wanted to do, and that was something that I loved and made me happy. Yeah.
Mm. Wow, that's amazing. And it's you probably will go into modeling again. You say?
Yeah, I would like to just do something, get my portfolio set up again, and yeah, I'd love to just be able to do that again.
Lovely. So probably we can look forward for that and see more of your modeling if on the website that we can find more information about that. So what's next for Nyibol?
A lot of projects. I think getting my diploma would be amazing. That's what's on my mind now, and just having more like practical skills in ministry. I know that we are serving at the moment as well, and that's part of our professional practice, but I would love to be able to continue to serve within the church and outside the church as well. I would love to get my business to a certain amount as well, just keep on growing more clients. Yeah, I would love to be able to do classes as well and teach women, especially with social media skills. Yeah, those would be my main things. And I'm focusing a lot more on having more balance, as in like having time to go travel, be with my family, with my friends. So I'd love to do more of that as well. And then side projects like modeling as well would be amazing.
Wow, you just mentioned a word balance, which I'm curious as well, Nyibol. And because you did say that you got a few projects that's coming up, and then you probably thinking of going modeling. So what's your tips on that to like trying to, I know that probably it's not about balancing, it's about on how do you optimize your time spent with yourself, with your family, and all this project. What is your tips on like how to optimize all this together?
That's such a great question. I like the phrase that like you can have everything that you want, but you can't have everything all at once. I think that's really important to notice. Like there was a time that I financially I wanted to be in a certain position. I wanted my own house. I wanted this, and it's like I feel like I've achieved that. I still obviously have other financial goals, but now it's like focusing on my studies, focusing on family and work as well. And the financial aspect is not as intense. So it's like a balancing wheel. Like, and I just feel like maybe focus on 3 things or even 1 or 2 things for a certain season. I really love the 12-week year when I do that. And that's one of the things that helps me with my intensity, because I can just focus on like 1 or 2 or 3 goals and focus 3 months intensely on those. But just like having a long-term view, like who do you want to be in the long term? Who do you want to be 10 years from now? Who do you want to be 5 years from now? And then making sure that your goals reflect that. And just having grace with yourself as well. I feel like as women, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be everything, but we can't be everything all at once. It does take time. So just pick a few things and work on that. Even with the modeling, it's like I'm not doing it now because this month is crazy, but I could look at it in like 3 months' time or like 4 months' time. You know, it's still on the horizon, but it's just not at this very moment. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. I love that information or that piece of advice that you just give to people out there. And then, and I love that you're saying about the season. It's like every project or every few things that you need to focus on. It's to be prioritized in that particular seasons. Yeah, that's that. Is that from the 12-week goals? Is that what's the things that you
so the 12-week year
12-week year
about including your like it's about achieving your 1 year goals in 3 weeks, and it's not 3 weeks, 3 months. So it's like about being intense and focusing on just maybe 1 or 2 or 3 things, as opposed to like everything on all at once. You know, it's a lot more effective when we're focusing on like one or two things, but we're focusing on them intensely. And also about seasons, even though it's a spiritual aspect, it's like life is lived in seasons. So we live our lives in seasons. And so it's about recognizing what season you're in and adapting for that. Like you can't have everything all at once. There's some seasons where it's more quieter and you're doing like internal focus or you're focusing on your family. And there are seasons where like business is doing really well and everything's like financially amazing. But if you look at life as in seasons, the seasons start and the seasons end, I think it's a good mindset as well, because you don't beat yourself up as much because it's only a season, like it's going to pass. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds so amazing, and I love that. And that's something that you did mention a few times in our masterminds. And from what you're sharing, I would say that's something that people can start to focus on as well and to learn more about. Thank you so much for that, Nyibol. So, what is your one piece of advice for other women out there? Probably someone who it can be for people who is younger like you, or others like any women that you can give a piece of advice.
I would say that anything is possible. I know that's very like cliche and like, oh my gosh, like how can she say that? But I truly believe anything is possible. And the reason why a lot of us get stuck in our heads is we listen to what other people think we should be or who should we be. But you kind of have to filter out those noise and go back to who you were as a child, when you were like, basically when we were children, we all thought we were like invincible and that we can achieve everything. And it's like, even like just ridiculous things, we're like, I can do that, you know? So everything, it's possible. You can achieve your goals, but you really need to have tunnel vision focus and like get rid of the outside noise and go back to who you were as a child and really focus on like just being limitless and being all you can be. Yeah.
I love that. And yes, everything is possible. And look at Nyibol, and like she make impossible possible. So the main reason for me to run this 100 Successful Women podcast or conversation is to show people the examples, the real life examples that's possible, right? And you are one of the examples, Nyibol.
Thank you, Vivienne. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So where can people find you online, Nyibol?
So you can find me on Instagram. So it's NK Media AU, and also on Facebook as well. So NK Media AU, and website is coming soon, but the URL is www.nk-media.com.au.
-media. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to include that in the the video as well, so that they can have the access of that. Yep. So before we wrap up the conversation today, is there anything that you would like me to ask that I haven't asked yet, Nyibol?
No, I feel like you asked some very challenging, thought-provoking questions, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much, Nyibol. I really appreciate that you are here sharing with us your wisdom, some golden nuggets, and I really wanted to say that you did so well, and I'm so grateful that you are here sharing what you know to every one of us.
Thank you so much for having me. You're a legend.
Thank you so much, and looking forward to hear more from you next time, Nyibol.
Thank you.
So bye for now.
Bye.